What's going on, everyone from LowKick MMA? My name is Dane Podolsky. I'm joined with Miranda Maverick. She's set to return on June 10th at UFC 289 in Vancouver. Miranda, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And just first off, how have you been doing? How's training been going? And how this fight with Jasmine Jasudavicius come together?
Yeah, it came together initially because I watched her fight. I actually called her out on Twitter and I was like, hey, you want to dance anytime soon? I've been looking for a fight. Nobody's taken it. You want to do it? She responded something about, sure, I'll lead, you follow. And then we messaged each other back and forth personally as well. I kind of messaged her and I was like, hey, I know I did a public call out, but I'd just like to fight you. You looked really good in your last fight. I'm ranked right now. That'll be good for you. And if you could get a hold of Mick if you want to, that'd be great. And so she did. We started kind of hyping it up. And luckily it came about. I'm glad it's in Canada in front of a crowd. I'm not so glad about the taxes in Canada, but it is what it is. I'm excited though. I'm happy. I'm feeling great. We're only about 3 weeks out now. My weight's on point. My nutrition's on point. Everything's looking good, feeling good. Sparring's going awesome, and only what is it, 5 sparrings left, I think. So I'm hyped to get ready to fight.
And you're going into enemy territory for this one.
Yeah, I love that though. In Invicta, I was an underdog a lot of times, and it almost hypes it up more, gives me that fuel that I need to go in there and really dominate a fight.
Mhm. And how much footage have you gotten to watch on Jasmine? It sounds like, you've seen a lot of her fights. And what do you think gives you the advantage over her?
I do my homework. I try to watch every fight that's accessible on YouTube, on ESPN, on UFC Fight Pass, all the above. So I've watched many of her fights. I feel like my grappling is better than anyone she's really faced. While she is a grappler and she looks good in her grappling, jujitsu, or wrestling, she hasn't really fought anybody that's that good in that area. She's fought a lot of strikers and just taken them down and made it look like they don't even know what they're doing. But it's hard to gauge anybody when they fight somebody who has no idea what they're doing on the ground, whether they're good or not. So I feel like my ground game is going to be dominant compared to hers, especially if I get on top of her. And I feel like my striking is going to blow away her striking. She has good wall wrestling. She's big for the division. She's strong. And I think that's what she has going for her. But I have those same things.
And so you're ranked 15th, but this will be your third straight fight against an unranked opponent. Is that something that, upset you a little bit at the matchmaking? I know you called her out, but were you hoping to get someone maybe ranked above you?
Yeah, I was hoping for ranked opponents way beforehand. I called out several people, 20 names I gave to the management, and they just didn't want to give me that for whatever reason. So I don't really care whether they're ranked or not. I get paid the same regardless. So I'm just happy to go in there, fight, get my paycheck, and get back out. But after this, I don't anticipate I'll have any unranked opponents for a while, and I don't really want them. I want to work my way up the ladder eventually, and now's a good time for it. I feel like I'm reaching my peak, and I'm comfortable with this camp now out in Denver. I've been excelling at a fast rate, and I'm ready to show it.
Does it piss you off knowing that, had you gotten the decision against Macy Barber, you'd probably be in a different situation in your career right now?
It pisses me off that the matchmakers don't acknowledge that and put me in the position that I should be right now. Everybody knows how it was. Everybody agreed, yet it's treated differently when you actually look at the politics behind it and the rankings and all of that. I don't see why she's getting the opponent she is, and they seem to still be kind of picking and choosing her opponents, even within the top 15, the matches that look good for her. The Andrea Lee was a very close fight that I would have given to Lee. There's a reason nods get turned one way or another, and it's pretty frustrating that Macy keeps getting it. I have a feeling we'll meet again at some point, but she has already refused rematches in the past. And I was going to call her out this fight, but now she has a fight booked for July, so maybe after that we'll meet this year.
I was going to ask, is that, a fight you want back to
Oh,
re?
absolutely. There's been 2 opportunities for me to have it, and she's turned down both. I don't even know if it got to her. I think the matchmaker turned it down. So, regardless, I'd love to fight her again. I doubt that she'll want to fight me again, but I'd be happy if it happens.
Are there any other names that you're looking at, above you in the top 15, if it's not Macy Barber, that you'd want next if all goes well and you beat Jasmine Jasudavicius?
Yeah, I'm really trying to work with my manager and my coaches to figure out a couple specific names. Right now, I'm like, give me anybody. Give me any of the top 15. I don't necessarily want someone coming off of a loss, but I'll take any names.
Fair enough. And now I want to ask because you recently went on, a bit of a rant about female fighters missing weight. what caused you to, was there anyone in particular that caused you to sort of go on that rant? And,
Not necessarily anyone in particular, but there were just several fight cards in a row, even for months before that, where people would miss weight. You see them on Twitter or on Instagram being like, "So sorry, guys. I know it was unprofessional, but I had my period, blah, blah, blah." And then, I saw like Shiva or whatever her name is, like look super cocky on the scale, like just didn't even look like she was drawn out at all and was up there smirking and grinning and making muscles and all that. And I think that kind of prompted it, but it wasn't necessarily just her. The excuses are what I have a problem with. When you miss weight, take it, own it, and just say, wow, I messed up. Here's your part of the purse. I'm sorry. Be respectful about it. Don't get out there and be cocky and act like you did nothing wrong, and then that put in the effort to cut weight. If you look like that on the scale and you're able to flex and smile and all that jazz, then I don't think you tried. I've cut weight before and I've missed weight before, as I mentioned on that little rant that I had. But what people didn't get from that is I cut to 115 at one point in my career, and that's when I missed weight. My body went into shock when I was in the bath, and I never made a big deal of it or anything because that's nobody else's problem. It's nobody else's fault. It's my job to make weight, period. It doesn't matter what excuses you have. And the whole period thing, we all know we're going to have it. It's literally the survival instincts of our body. They always kick in. I'd say 99% of weight cuts a female has, they have their period because of that reason. Your body's like, I don't want a kid right now. This isn't the health I need to be in to have a child. Get that out of my system. So we have that. And the fact that girls are like, oh, didn't know it would come right now. Yes, you did. You did, especially if you're a professional and have fought, more than 10 times and had your period probably 90% of those times. It's insane that you're still not expecting it or using that as an excuse. Lose weight lower, walk around at a lower weight, and be prepared for anything.
fair enough. Now, I gotta ask quickly, how the hell did you try to make 115? Because I feel like you're one of the
Yeah.
few 125ers.
Well, at the time, I was in Invicta and UFC did not have a 125-pound division.
Okay,
I
I got
was 19 years old. And to be honest, I gained a lot of weight between the ages of 17 and 19, right? And I didn't necessarily realize how much. And at 18 years old, I had done a catch weight at 118, and it was hard, no doubt. But I was like, well, I made it. So let me try 115 as a pro. And I had already gained a lot of muscle, didn't really realize how much I had. And if UFC didn't have 125, I was going to have to make 115 as a pro. So I gave it my best shot. Had nutritionists, but not like professional ones, just like local, like somebody helped me that knows something about nutrition. And it was not a good idea. I cut 15 pounds in the matter of a day at 130 pounds. And I got down to 116.8 when I went into shock, and they made me drink a little bit of water. And I think I was 119 when I weighed back in. And it didn't work. It was a terrible idea. I was super drained. My dad had to carry me to the scale. They had to like hold on to me as I was balancing, and I kept almost passing out. And we finally got me balanced for a whole 2 seconds to where they could take the digital reading, and I missed weight. After that, I like basically swore to my parents I'd never try to make 115 again unless I like got a nutritionist, had a long notice, because that was another thing Invicta didn't give you notices too much. It'd be like 5 weeks, and I was like, wow, that's a long fight camp, you know. And so I just didn't make it. It was a terrible idea. And now 125 is where I belong. I've even fought at 135 before. I'm a pretty stocky 125er. I may be short, but I've got a lot of muscle mass, and it makes it really hard to get below 125.
And you've been super active since you got into the UFC. This will be, your seventh fight in under 3 years. Is that something you take your, pride in and taking a lot of fights? And how busy do you want to be going forward for the rest of
I
the
want to
year?
be way busier. I want to be way busier than I've been. I've taken that many fights. 2 have gotten canceled the day of or on weigh-ins day. And every time, people are like, oh, I got canceled. Well, that's still a full fight camp for me. I was still ready to go up to the day. I'd like to have 3 to 4 fights every year. That hasn't been the case. It's been like 2 every year, and that's really frustrating for me. But I stay ready for short notices, and hopefully that will pay off in the long run. And this time I'm hoping to get one in fall and maybe one closer to Christmas, but we'll see.
And I would pitch the idea, maybe if, hopefully all goes well and you come out of this one with no injuries, UFC 291 in Salt Lake City. It's somewhat close to Denver. Is that a card that you're maybe looking at?
I'm looking at all of them. Usually they book all the way out a few months, and I'm sure that's what they'll tell me, but I'll definitely stay ready for it in case a flyweight drops out and they need a replacement.
And Were you, I guess, disappointed at all you weren't able to get on the Kansas City card, given that was in your home state last month?
I was. I tried really hard to get on it too, and they were like, "Oh, card's already filled. Don't have a matchup." Whatever the excuses were, and then I saw, two matches get made after the fact. um, so it was a little bit frustrating. A lot of it's a political game. I don't. I guess I'm not promotable enough. Don't shake my ass on Instagram enough, or whatever the case is for a lot of these women out there that seem to get fights all the time. That have a personal relationship with Dana or whatever else. They've known him for a while. They've been in the UFC a long time. Whatever the reason for promotability is, I don't quite have that yet, and I plan on getting there at some point, one way or another. And I hope it's just by winning, being who I am, and keeping the values that I have.
And I want to, talk about your division. Big shakeup with Alexa Grasso beating Valentina Shevchenko.
Mhm.
Did seeing that win kind of open your eyes a little bit to see, like, you're totally part of the next wave of flyweight fighters, and seeing that someone finally broke through kind of inspire you at all to be like, I can be part of that next wave?
Yeah, I think Santos honestly was the first one to break through. I think she may have won that fight. It was a very close decision. It could have went either way, and I would have been happy with it. I think Santos really showed that Valentina wasn't invincible and all that. Alexa was losing pretty dominantly, I would say, and she ended up catching Valentina. She did well in the fight, no doubt, but I think that Valentina will win the rematch. But I think regardless, had that happened or not, I still feel like I'm that next wave. I still feel like I had a chance. I even said prior, although Valentina's grappling is good, I felt like that was her weakest of points. And people go in there way too intimidated when they fight her. And Alexa and Santos both did not. They both had quite a bit of success going in there against her. And I hope it continues. I hope we get some of these names. Like I'd say already, there's 5 or 6 names now that are clearly the future of the division. And the rest of the top 15 kind of just need filtered through, matches done, fights done, to where we really solidify a good top 10, top 15 in the flyweight division.
And another woman you fought is Erin Blanchfield. She's, looked dominant, just picked up the biggest win of her career. How do you think
Yeah.
she would fare against Shevchenko? And is that a rematch that you'd love to get in the future?
It is a rematch I'd like to get in the future. I think I'll work my way up to it. She had a huge bounce up in competition when she fought Andrade, but Andrade was also coming off the couch. She was supposed to have that fight against Santos. I'd still like to see that one. I think that's going to be the big test, the big fight before the title that I personally would like to see, because Erin and Talia both have like a lot of good grappling, a lot of good wrestling, and we get to kind of see who comes out on top of that one. And I think then we could have the contender for the title out of those two.
And how has training at Elevation Fight Team helped you throughout your career? Training at Elevations that help you with the cardio, and who have been your go-to training partners for this fight?
Yeah, it's been great. I wouldn't even necessarily say I'm part of Team Elevation necessarily, but I am in Denver. We kind of just all call ourselves that to stop the confusion. But I train under Easton Training Center in pound for pound Muay Thai with Elliot Marshall and Justin Houghton. They're my 2 coaches. And my main training partners have been Raquel Pennington for this fight. It's pretty much my main training partner at all. Almost all my rounds are with her, but I have Kai Bennett, who's in Invicta. She gives me some rounds. My own sister, Skylar Maverick, she gives me a couple rounds here and there. And then some of the guys that are a little bit smaller. Tatsuro, who's a 125er in the UFC, was out here for a few weeks. He gave me a couple rounds and was a great training partner. And just, working with who I've got out here. Lauren Murphy for her fights was giving me good rounds. So that definitely gave me some good prep leading into this fight camp. And there's a lot of girls out here too, but I haven't been getting as many rounds with them. As far as the elevation, it's been awesome. I couldn't be in a better location, as far as how many pro females are out here, as far as the great coaches. I love being out here. I'm going to be out here until I retire from MMA, most likely.
Fair enough. And just my final question, UFC 289, Miranda Maverick, Jasmine Jasudavicius. Miranda, give me your official prediction.
I'm going to try to get done as soon as possible. I want it to be a round 1 finish. The way I've been training them, I guess, is it'll be in round 2, just from warming up, gauging distance, all of that, and ending up going in and getting a finish. I plan to show every level. I really think that my striking is good enough compared to hers that I could get a knockout, but my feeling is that once I start with the striking and start dominating that, she's really going to try to shoot for takedowns and kind of be desperate with that, and I'll end up getting the better half of that. And I think the finish will be on the ground regardless.
Well, Miranda, I wish you the best of luck. Guys, you can watch Miranda Maverick at UFC
Thank you.
289 in Vancouver. when she takes on Jasmine Jasudavicius. Miranda, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKick MMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.